Hi, it's Aura. I'm the host of Collective Mind. I think everybody here probably knows that. How's everybody doing? Hi Nitrogen. Hi Ellie. I'm glad that it's good timing for you, Nitrogen. Oh, that's right. I gotta open something else so I'm not staring at a delayed version of myself. I'm sorry pre-calc sucks. We haven't had to do a math class in so long. I'm glad. We didn't really have any problems with math until reaching the highest level that we did for early college, and then we were so over it so fast. I'm glad we didn't want to pursue anything that involved a lot of math. Working on that same rainbow blanket, at least for right now. I don't know if I'll switch projects at all. There is once again a fan in the background. I'm not sure if you noticed. Not crazy hot today, but still warmer than we would normally have our apartment at because we still do not have air conditioning. I was supposed to get a lot of schoolwork done today because yesterday we went to an aquarium, which was super fun, but also kind of exhausting. But that was like the fun thing that we planned for our spring break. But we have school that we have to do even though we're on spring break. And then the day before that, we went to visit family who are in town, which was also exhausting. And Monday was the first day of break, and we decided not to let ourselves work on any school on Monday because we really needed at least one day after last week to actually take as a break. So we did some school on Wednesday, but none on Monday or yesterday. And I was able to work on a little bit, but very, very, very little today. And it was just not happening. Hi, Jade. Thankfully, one project that we had wanted to work on over break is shorter than we had worried it might be. I did look at that today. It's one of the only things I did. And I also have longer next week to work on it than I had worried I might, so that's good at least. But I wanted to get more done for the incomplete class from last semester over break. And I have a late assignment to finish for another class too that I really want to get done before things start back up on Monday. But we'll see. See how much I can get done over the weekend. but I wasn't really getting anything done anyway, so I figured not doing the live stream just because I hadn't gotten school done didn't make any sense unless I was going to actually be able to work on school. So maybe even best case scenario, this will help me to be doing better and be able to do some school afterward, but if not, I'm not like wasting this time doing the live stream if I couldn't have been doing school anyway, so yeah. Made a little progress on the orange section so far. Oh, well, that's part of why I feel like shit today. I hate when when I realize these things and I'm like, well, that was totally solvable. Great. Because we have a medication for our POTS, our physical disability, and it doesn't by any means make all the symptoms go away, but it does help. And we left really early for the aquarium yesterday, before my normal meds time, so I took it in the car, and I left it in the car, so I didn't take it last night or this morning, and that's why I feel like shit. And I'm also probably just still exhausted some from the past 2 days. Thanks, nitrogen. I like it. I think it's gonna be really cool. I like working with rainbow colors. And for big projects like this, I like changing colors. 'Cause it helps me be able to continue to see the progress, even like halfway through a huge project like this, where if it's just one color, it's way harder to see that I'm actually making any progress. Although I did figure out kind of a hack for that. That I did when I was working on an Etsy order that I just remembered, which is there are little like markers that you can get that you just like clip on to knitting projects that don't hurt them at all. But I did a marker every so often for a big blanket project that was just a solid color, and that helped me to be able to see that I was still making progress that wouldn't have been obvious without the marker. So just remember that. Yeah, I feel that, Ellie. That was one of the harder parts for us, for sure, was telling any people close to us in our life, especially family. Because it was really, really, really stressful, and we were scared of like rejection and invalidation and stuff like that. But we also didn't want to like overwhelm them or scare them or anything like that. And it did overwhelm some of them at first. It took time. But part of that, a big part of that, was less to do specifically with system stuff and more to do with trauma. Because a lot of those people had not known that we had significant childhood trauma. So that information, even without any details, was a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna be somewhat vague. Like, definitely not saying specific people and their relationship to us and stuff like that, because I don't know if they would be comfortable with that, and I don't want to give out that kind of information to some extent. but we had someone close to us who had some very minimal previous experience with and that person had a hard time accepting it. Like, that person had the most pushback of, well, are you sure? This feels out of the blue. Why do you think this? Like, defend your reasoning to some extent. But it was from a place of not wanting us to struggle. Like, it was from a worry that we wouldn't be able to work. It was concerns like, what if someone switches at work and yells at your boss or something, and like says their name and makes a big thing, and then people think we're crazy or whatever. Like, it was coming from a place of that person wanting us to be safe and seeing this as something that could make us less safe. So the way that I handled that for the most part was to try to explain the fact that it's a coping mechanism to make us safer. And explaining that, like, someone putting us in a bad situation at work wouldn't make any sense because they would also deal with the consequences of that. Like, it wasn't like someone was hijacking my life and might just decide to ruin it for some reason. Like, they would also deal with the consequences of that. And obviously that's not like a totally thoroughly accurate explanation, because there could be situations where an alter could switch and for some reason would do something that the host or other alters might perceive as ruining their life, or like something that they definitely wouldn't do and aren't okay with. But just to kind of simplify it for this person who is struggling with the idea, to explain that, like, the whole point is to make us safer, not to make life worse. And then I added nuance to that later when this person was more used to the idea overall. But it was really hard at first. 'Cause I felt like I had to go through the reasoning point by point, like I was defending a thesis or something. And I didn't have my diagnosis yet, but I had been talking to my therapist about it for a while. And it was stressful. And then other people close to us, for the most part, fell into one of a couple categories, like either just kind of being like, okay, and then moving on and not addressing it very much, or occasionally addressing it. And then some people who like would ask a fair number of questions as those questions occurred to them and try to understand the best that they could so that they could like best support us. I haven't seen any new chat messages in a while. I'm hoping that it's not like totally frozen. Everything on my end says it's still going, so if somebody could just like type hi, that'd be great for me to know that it's still working. Okay, good. Awesome. I was worried that my end was still telling me I was streaming, but that it had stopped working for some reason. Yeah, I totally get that. I was just worried that the chat had broken or something, and I didn't want to just keep sitting here doing my whole monologue or whatever and have it not actually working. So, yeah. There are some people that we haven't told, some that we haven't yet but might, and some that we don't expect to ever tell and wouldn't feel safe telling. But it's the kind of situation where if they happened to stumble across our channel somehow, we would still be safe, but there's no reason to go out of our way to give them that information. It's that kind of a situation. Like there would be no benefit to telling them. You can definitely ask a question, Nitrogen. And even if you've already asked, it's fine. I also ask questions many times because I forget the answer, or whether or not I actually asked or just rehearsed it in my head so thoroughly that I imagine the conversation happening. Because I rehearse conversations from both sides, kind of. I'll rehearse it with every possible response to every part of the conversation that I can come up with. Oh no. Yeah, doing the whole thing where you think you're recording and you didn't actually record, that would suck so much. I used to, when I was recording for a different thing, a while ago now, I had a couple times, because I was doing it on my phone back then, where my phone would like run out of space and I wouldn't know that. And I would go look afterwards and I'd be like, cool, well it recorded the first 10 minutes of the hour and a half that I was doing stuff. Nice. Ellie, the fact that your mom already knows some of the trauma might actually help a lot, because that was the part that has been hardest by far overall for our family, is dealing with the fact that things were happening that they didn't know about. And like I think there's a guilt associated with that, of feeling like it was their responsibility to protect us from things like that and not having been able to. So I think to some extent they're dealing with feelings of being responsible for that, even though it's not their fault. So if your mom has already had time to come to terms with that side of this news, that could be very helpful. So, I don't know if I've ever met... actually, that's not true. I have met an altar through a dream, and it was also, well, I thought it was a dream. I now know that I was going into our inner world, and just assumed afterwards that it was a dream, even though I don't have vivid dreams. Like, I don't see things when I dream because I have aphantasia, and this was visual. But it just didn't occur to me, and I was like, oh, I had a visual dream for some reason. And it was a recurring dream too, but I met an altar like that, so I thought it was a dream. But I have definitely heard of people meeting altars through dreams. Yeah. I know that's definitely a way that I've heard of altars reaching out is through dreams. The other closest thing that I've experienced is like sharing dreams with an altar. But in that case, for me, it's almost always, at least that I can remember, an altar I already know. And I can realize immediately after waking up, I can be like, oh, I was sharing Jade's dream, for instance. And those will pretty much always be trauma dreams, so I usually don't get most of it, or if I do in the moment, I will not remember that when I wake up, that kind of thing. Yeah, so that was another part that I had to deal with some of our family, was I am also not the first host, because Anna was our first host, and even she has like split a few times since then. And I've been host for a while. I've been host for over 10 years, but I wasn't originally, and some of my family definitely, to some extent, seemed to want there to be like a real one that they could think of as their child or sibling or whatever, and that would be like less complicated, or at least that was the assumption some of them seemed to make at first, and things like that. And that actually was part of what led me to change my name. Sorry, my throat always seems to get weird when I'm doing live streams. I don't know if it's because I don't normally talk so much or if I talk differently when I'm doing a live stream or something. I don't know, but maybe it's an anxiety thing. I don't know. But that's part of what made me want to change my name, because I and some of the people around me who had known us most, if not all, of our life, were making assumptions about me, I think in most cases without realizing it, because I had the body's name. So they were making assumptions that things that they knew about us generally would apply to me, and in many cases that wasn't true. And there was like an underlying assumption that they knew me, like, which is complicated because many of them do know me, but they have an understanding of me that combines traits that I actually have with traits of lots of other alters who they also know. But because they had been thinking of all of those alters as one person, they were applying all of those traits to their understanding of me because I had the body's name. So that was one of the things that made me seriously consider changing my name, which I ended up doing. And again, I was one of the people making those assumptions. It was part of my process of figuring out who I am and changing my understanding of myself, since I was also doing that, of thinking like, oh, I know how I respond in this type of situation, and I was thinking of how Jade responds because she gets triggered out for those situations or whatever. And that helped me a lot to be able to start kind of building my understanding of myself from scratch and letting go of all of those ideas I had about myself that more so applied to our system as a whole, or other alters who spent a lot of time fronting for various types of situations. Yeah. Yeah, it just depends what works best for you and your system, Ellie. If that's the easiest way for you to understand it right now, it's perfectly fine for you to do that. It was just frustrating to me that my name was associated with so many people's ideas of a singlet version of us that didn't exist. Hi, Emma. Yeah. Something I've realized through this process of changing my name and separating myself from the idea of the body as one person and stuff like that is I've started having a pretty strong, visceral, negative reaction to being called the body's name. And I think part of it is that now only happens in situations where we either don't feel safe outing ourselves as a system and have to therefore use the body's name, or people are ignoring the fact that we're out as a system and using a different name than the one we provided them to use. So it's only in situations where we're being like actively ignored or don't feel safe. But it's made me realize that I'm starting to get an idea of what it was like for everyone else in the system our whole life, constantly being called someone else's name and having them make massive sweeping assumptions, most of which wouldn't apply to who they are as an individual, and all of the things that go along with that. because I didn't have as good of an understanding of that before, and it really bothers me now. Because, like, one really good example is we're out as a system at school. We, like, come out to every individual online class in the introduction discussion at the beginning of every semester. And we put our names on discussion posts and at the end of emails and on assignments and all of that. And we regularly have people reply to emails and discussion posts and things like that with, you know, great post, body's name, even though we signed it with Aura or Jade or whoever. And it's so frustrating. And I feel like sad and angry and like this whole mix of negative emotions every time. And it's really, really strong and visceral. And like, I really like the body's name, and I was really comfortable with that name for a long time, and it took me a while to get comfortable with Aura instead. But I think because it's only associated now with those stressful and negative situations, I do not like being called that anymore. And it makes me really uncomfortable. Yeah, Ellie, I think that can be really common, that idea of not having feelings of that's not me, in like 3 different ways that immediately come to mind. One is if a system has pretty total amnesia, and so nobody really has awareness of each other and that kind of thing. The other is kind of the opposite. If you have so little amnesia that it feels like less extreme to some extent. But another one is just like the amount of inherent denial that can come along with these disorders that can make you just not process those things until you're looking for them, until something points them out to you enough that it's like, that has to do with, and that has, and this. And that's what happened to me suddenly when I first found out about the system. Was I had YouTube randomly for some reason recommend some DID YouTubers to me, and I started watching their content because I had a deep interest in psychology and I wasn't very familiar with the disorder, and I was curious and the videos looked interesting, and I learned enough about it that it started making me wonder, and then I decided to write down in my bullet journal what like evidence there was, if any, that I had a system. And then things started hitting me that I had known about but had never thought of as weird, or things that I just hadn't processed at all. And one of the things I like to compare it to a lot is it's like the how when you wake up from a dream and it's really obvious to you the things about the dream that didn't make sense because you're awake, but while you were in the dream you didn't notice any of those things. It just drew your awareness away from that. So the fact that you just appeared there and don't remember what you were doing before, or the fact that there was a giant lizard monster that ate you or whatever, like, it doesn't strike you as unreal until afterward, and you're like, well, that's ridiculous, that would never really happen, or that doesn't make any sense, or why did I just like teleport from this situation to this situation? or whatever it is. And then once you're awake and you can pay real attention to that, you can point out all those things and it's really obvious. So I think it's actually a similar mechanism in the brain that just draws your attention away from those things. But like, one of the points that I wrote down in that bullet journal that fateful night was, hey, I mention to people in random situations all the time that I remember basically nothing about my childhood until I turned 13. Weird. Like, people would ask me if I remembered a specific event, and I would be like, nope, and then they'd ask me about another event, and I'd say nope, and then they'd ask me about another one, and I'd say, no, I remember basically none of my childhood, and they would just kind of shrug and move on. And that one person in my life was like, that's not supposed to be the case. What do you mean? Yeah, it makes perfect sense, Emma, to not, like, in those situations where you don't feel safe enough, to not do it. We still do that, even though it makes us uncomfortable in some situations that don't feel safe enough. No worries, Nitrogen. Welcome back. Yeah, I don't know why so many people just shrugged that off. Because, like, especially in my case, I have a close family member who studied psychology. And, like, that was part of their profession to an extent. And them and everyone else in our life who we said that to at various points didn't question it at all. Not once that I remember, at least. And, like, there were other things that were noticed that, like, we got assessed for, and we had doctors not do their job well enough. And those ones definitely aren't on our family because they did their part, and doctors were like, yeah, they're fine. Which, that's a whole separate thing. But I'm going to get into that one a little bit because it frustrates me so much. Our family noticed enough signs of, like, something's going on that they took us to multiple doctors who all one by one said, yeah, there's probably signs of something's probably going on, but she's doing well in school, so who cares? Basically. She's functioning enough. She's on top of her responsibilities. So, like, we're not gonna mess with that. And the idea, that, like, what if that's gonna fall apart any day? Like, what if I'm barely holding on to being able to function like that, and any second I'm just not gonna be able to, and we could start addressing the problem before then? B, that's a major, like, trauma sign, is functioning when things aren't okay to that level. So if there are signs that things are wrong, and I'm really functional despite that, you should look, like, as a doctor, that should be a red flag that you should look into if I'm being traumatized. And then, on top of that, like, what is this idea that a struggle doesn't matter if you can function? Because that pisses me off a lot. Because, like, we don't really apply that to physical health problems, at least for the most part. Like if I, trigger warning, I'm gonna say some medical stuff, but nothing graphic. If I like had a broken arm or something, but I was forcing myself through the pain to still function normally, and I saw a doctor, and the doctor was like, so your arm is broken. It's obviously broken. We did all the tests and everything, and your arm is broken. But who cares, because you're functioning. I'd be so, like, that doctor would be fired so fast. I'd have such an easy lawsuit against them. Like, nobody could get away with that. But with mental health, it's like, well, what does it matter if every minute of your life is torture and you're not remotely emotionally okay and you're struggling socially and whatever else? If you can function, if you're doing school, that logic just doesn't make any sense to me, and it makes me so mad. And apparently multiple doctors throughout my childhood agreed on that. So I blame capitalism. Not even jokingly. Like, the idea that productivity is the only thing that matters is a core problem with capitalism. We probably don't need to get into that too much. But man, when my family told me that, because I did a thing where I went to some family members and I was like, hey, can we go through my personal history? Because I don't remember a significant chunk of it, and it will help me in therapy. And this was before I was talking about system stuff, and it was one of the ways that I was trying to investigate system stuff. That was one of the things they told me. They were like, oh yeah, we knew stuff was wrong with you, and your doctors knew stuff was wrong with you. But they said you were functional enough and to not worry about it, so we eventually dropped it because we had so many doctors say that. Yeah, I also had a therapist tell me it was normal to remember very little of my childhood. But then when I actually put it in context, when I was like, I can count like 5 memories or something that I can pull up at will and remember any details of. I remember being told other stories about my childhood, but I don't remember the event. I remember being told about it afterwards. Bye, Nitrogen. Thanks for hanging out. Hope it goes well. Yeah, that's one of the big problems with the way kids get evaluated for anything being wrong is basically all of the weight goes into how they're doing in school. That is not the only factor. Yeah, that's not the only kind of memory issue, but that is one. Yeah, same thing for us. I don't know how we functioned the way that we did. But it's apparently a trauma response to overfunction and also a trauma response to underfunction. And many, many people have a long stretch where they have the trauma response of over-functioning and then suddenly crash and can't do it anymore and start under-functioning. And we've been talking to our therapist about that now, because it really sucks. A lot. Yeah, we're struggling a lot to stay on top of school, too. And ours crashed all at once in our first attempt at college. Yeah, that's an interesting thing too, is I just had an assignment for one of my classes that had me go through and like describe what I learned from every like upper division college class I've ever taken. And even the ones that I took last semester, I was like, I could not tell you anything about this class literally at all, except like what's obvious from the title of the class. So like if it's a psychology class or whatever, and an emotional association I have with it. That's it. Like I'll be like, oh yeah, that class sucked, or that class was interesting, but I don't remember what was interesting about it. This was months ago. And like I did most of it. Like it's not like it was a different alter and I don't have the memories. And even when other alters were working on things, I'm always co-fronting, so I would still have memory of that. I don't know. Memory's weird. I literally had to put on that assignment. I was like, I remember nothing from this class except that it was stressful and difficult and triggering. I remember nothing from this class except that I liked the professor. Yeah. The denial thing sucks so much. Because part of me wants to, like, pat the denial on the back and say, okay, you did your job. Like, you can retire now. I know about the thing. Your job is done. Like, let it go. Yeah, it's really hard, because I will sometimes realize the hard way after the fact that I dissociated through most of something, but in the way where I didn't realize that I wasn't processing it. Or the memory will just kind of fade way too quickly. Like, I'll take a quiz for something that I read or watched or whatever 5 minutes before taking the quiz. And I'll be like, yeah, that was definitely in the chapter I just read. Well, like half of the chapter was about that thing, and I apparently don't know what the thing is. I've been trying to let go of a lot of my perfectionism when it comes to school. But it's hard because school, like academic stuff, was such a huge piece of my identity for so long. Because I was good at it. And now that it's so hard. Hi, Primal Pack! Still Onyx for you? Now that it's so hard to stay on top of school, like letting go of that identity piece has been one of the hardest parts, but I'm trying to remind myself that the goal now is to graduate. The goal is not perfect grades. Graduating is going to be hard enough. Like there's not really a universe where perfect grades happens. So trying to let go of that piece has been really hard, but important. Yeah, I don't know if you remember me saying this, Ellie, but I literally have the same kind of denial that you're describing, not only with system stuff, but with my physical disability that has been measurably tested and confirmed and proven by multiple doctors and nurses for over a year. And every single time it flares up, my brain is like, oh my god, I'm being so overdramatic. I'm glad you got some sleep. I hope Charlie helped. Thank you for hanging out with her some. It helped me get the tiniest bit of school done, and then I crashed again. Well, I haven't eaten in a while. Oops. Anybody else just have moments of like, how the fuck am I like alive? Not necessarily in the more like dark side of that, but just the like the little details of like, how am I keeping this body running? Like the amount that I forget to eat, the amount that I'm dehydrated like all the time. And there's like the depression and SI side of that too, but just like the stupid things that should be like the easy part. Yeah. I'm getting less and less connected with the body's age too, with time. I think my age, like not the body age, but my age is probably more like 20. Which isn't crazy far from 24. I think we're 24. But still, like, every extra year is like, that's not right. And it makes me really feel for the alters whose ages are so drastically different. Because, like, the physical characteristics of the body between 20 and 24 are not dramatic at all. But between 5 and 24, yeah, that's noticeable. It's very noticeably incorrect. And it's obvious to me when I'm little. It's very obvious to me when I'm little. That's getting into some existential stuff now. What even is time, though? Time isn't real, you can't convince me otherwise. It's too inconsistent to be real. Like me. Yeah, that makes sense. It can be really, really, really stressful to feel like people are seeing you acting in a way that doesn't match their idea of what you should be like, you know? Did I say the thing about how I have a bunch of video clips from the aquarium that I'm hoping to edit together into a vloggy type thing? Can't remember if I said it or just thought about saying it. I haven't started it yet, so I have no idea when it'll be up. And I don't really know how good the clips are yet, like how usable they'll be. I'm worried about the audio for a lot of them, but I will probably be able to just like put music behind them and mute the actual clips if I need to, so I should be able to do something with them. Made it longer than normal, but I'm getting really disco now. It just hit me all at once. I think I'm a little over halfway with this orange section. Yeah, it has been an hour. A little over, I think. Maybe the juice will help ground me a little. Who knows? What do people want to talk about? I don't know how to talk to people. Am I doing a good job of faking it? Talking to people, I mean. Like pretending I know how to talk to people. We actually have lots of gatekeepers. We have a group of main gatekeepers, and then a lot of our subsystems have individual gatekeepers for the subsystem. Not our main subsystems anymore, but the other ones that are further away from the front have gatekeepers that keep people away from those subsystems if they're not supposed to have access, type thing. I think one of the main gatekeepers was considering making a Meet the Alters video, and they would probably talk about the group as a whole to some extent, like introduce the whole group. I am nearly positive that not all of them will do a Meet the Alters video. Like, I would guess that most of them won't care to. Most of them don't front very much, and they don't work as much with external stuff as they do internal stuff, so they don't really it's not really that they don't prioritize external stuff, but it's not their job, basically. They leave that to other people to deal with. But one of them I think she's been in a video already. Briefly. I think she briefly switched in a Minecraft video. Her name's Alina. She's a gatekeeper and a caretaker. Welcome back, Emma. I'm glad I can knit fairly well while dissociating. That's some of how we make our most progress on some knitting projects, is when we're dissociating while doing something else, and then we'll just kind of look down later and be like, oh, we did a whole bunch of this, cool. Disco knitting. Oh, I know something that I wanted to ask people. If I ever wanted to do a live stream where the idea of it was hanging out while I try to be productive and do something that's hard for me, but not like show you guys what I'm doing, probably, because most of the things I have in mind would have information that I wouldn't want to make public on it, so I wouldn't be sharing my screen or anything like that, but just like hanging out and chatting on a live stream while I do something else. Would people like that, or would that be stupid and boring? Okay, cool. I'm glad I'm doing a good job talking. Ellie, I could not at all process the message about the wall and comprehending things, but it's probably me. But if you want to try to reword it and see if I can make it go all the way into my brain this time, feel free. But I wanted to let you know that I wasn't ignoring it, I just could not get the information all the way into my brain. I'm either blurry or sliding, and I can't tell yet. Okay, good. Because I wondered if it would help me be able to get some of those things done. Like stupid things like taxes that are really important but are really hard for me to do and prioritize above other things, and just the things like that that pile up and end up making a big list of, well, here's really important things to do that don't exactly have a due date but still are really important, and like making appointments and messaging doctors and like things like that. I would still do video for sure. Like, it would look like this, except I would be sitting up more at my keyboard and doing something else on my other monitor while we talked. Oh, the main way that I tell a slide from just being blurry is if I can tell, like, that another altar is there, a specific altar. So if I can be like, oh, seems like Emily's close, or something like that, then I can tell that it's blurry and not sliding, which helps the most if they, like, talk to me. Because that's by far the easiest way, is if someone is like, hey, I'm close, or someone is like, hey, this person's close. That's what's going on. But if we're blurry enough that we can't, like, tell who we are and stuff, that makes it really, really hard. And if it's someone I don't have as good of communication with, that makes it really, really hard. The only other way I can tell is if there's, like, passive influence that's different enough from me. Like, if I feel like I might be slidey, but I'm feeling, like, scared of my partner, like, uncomfortable being around them, that's a really obvious one to me of, okay, someone's close who doesn't know my partner or isn't comfortable with them or is having a flashback or whatever, but doesn't feel safe and comfortable right now, and that's definitely not me. Dissociation is definitely not just alters being close, because it's not just a system thing. There are other dissociative disorders, and dissociation can be a symptom of other disorders that are not dissociative disorders, like PTSD. And non-clinical levels of dissociation can happen without having any kind of disorder at all. So, okay, cool. I'm really glad that the, like, productivity stream idea isn't stupid and horrible. I'm glad. I might try to do that sometimes then. But, like, right now I think I'm blurry, but I think I'm dissociating a lot and making it harder to tell who it is, because I'm kind of getting the sense that someone's trying to talk to me and I'm not processing it, if that makes sense. Like, almost like, you know, when you're in a crowd of people and it's really obvious that people are talking, but you're not tuned in to any of the specific conversations. So you know people are talking, but you don't know what they're saying. I wouldn't say it's necessarily more likely that it's an alter, even if you, like, even with a system, it's still, like, it's a dissociative disorder. It's still very common to have other types of dissociation that aren't specifically switching or alters being close. You can dissociate for other reasons. I don't know what would be more common, and that probably depends on the system. And if for some systems that's a foolproof way to know that an alter is close or that a switch is about to happen or whatever, that's awesome. It's not true for us, though. And I know that doesn't, like, have to be true. I feel like Emily might be close. Because I feel like I felt some frustration when I used that as an example of someone who would be easier for me to tell that they were blurring with me instead of me sliding. Which would make sense if I used that example while she was blurring with me and couldn't tell that she was blurring with me. Okay, I just very clearly got an eye roll, so I'm pretty sure that that's true. Is Primal Pack still here? I might actually be hearing them doing things around the apartment. So, not sure. If they're still watching or not. I did that part, I can stop. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely blurry. If not, like, practically co-fronting. I feel like we're both trying to, like, physically knit, but that there's almost, like, a slight delay between our reaction times. Cool, hi Primal Pack. Sorry, I said hi to you already and said hi to you again. I like saying hi to you. I'm glad that it was a good therapy session while you were blendy. I'm glad that that made it easier, because I know sometimes that can make it harder from experience, so I'm glad that it went well. Yeah, you can. Emily is very, very close. The big time that we would ask people not to say hi to someone who's close is if we're actively trying not to switch with them. So if you're ever not sure about that, like asking like you just did is always fine. But especially if we outright say we're trying not to switch for whatever reason, or that they don't want to switch, that kind of thing, then talking to them can like pull them out. So that would be less nice. She might end up switching with me though. That's why she wanted to know if Primal Pack was still here. I want to change my picture if that's okay. To my other one. It might like be really big at first, and I'll have to fix it. Yeah, I'm not a dolphin right now. I go back and forth. I'm usually not a dolphin when I'm fronting, that's why I'm gonna change it. Okay, now I gotta make it smaller till it lines up with that. And then gotta put it in here. And then I've gotta put it right here. And then I've gotta move this. Oh no, I've gotta move this down. Almost. Okay. There. That's a little better. Mommy's still, or Aura. Aura's my mommy. Mommy's still really close. I mean, she's always close, but she's still really, really close to help me. We still have some makeup under our eyes that didn't come off. Thank you. I want to dye the body's hair red like my hair. Does anybody know what to talk about? We make mistakes with makeup all the time. Just the nice thing is it can come right off. Except apparently some stubborn eye makeup. We probably should eat soon. But I don't want to stop the live stream. don't know why I'm here. It can go away. Do you want me to end this stream? I don't know what you mean. Okay. Oh. Joseph is close to... Oh. Well, if there was a trigger, I wouldn't say. Like a bad trigger. Even maybe a good trigger, I wouldn't say. We don't want to share that kind of information. Because mean people could use it to be mean. No, it's okay to ask. We can always just not answer. I guess maybe if we don't have much to talk about and I'm hungry anyway and it's already been an hour and a half stream, maybe it's just a good time to end it. Should I end it? I guess I'll add my name to the title. There. I'm not that tired. Well, now I don't know if I should end it or keep going. Hello, Pat, can you choose for me? My favorite game is Minecraft. For sure. There's dolphins, and I like the music, and I like the oceans, and that you can swim under the water. And I like making things. And I like strip mining. And the caves are pretty, especially with the new update. The caves are really pretty. I don't want it to be up to me. Mommy says we haven't eaten since breakfast, but we had breakfast at lunchtime. So I don't know what to do with that. Well, I'm not gonna eat on the stream, that's for sure. And it would take too long to eat to just like pause the stream. Unless we were specifically trying to stream all day or something, we wouldn't want to do that. I guess it has been lots of hours since lunchtime. It's been 7 whole hours. But I don't even know what to eat. I don't feel very good. Okay, Mommy said stop is a good idea. Thank you for hanging out and chatting. And if you're watching after the fact, thank you for watching. And there's links in the description for Etsy and Discord and stuff like that. And there will be links on the screen eventually when it becomes a real video and we add an end screen. And please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It makes us really happy and helps our channel grow. And we really like talking to you guys. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.